Hello, my YouTube friends and family. So here is a explaining everything for you guys, okay? This is my video, my backstory for you. I was born in 1998, so I'm 38 years old. And I was born to a mother who wasn't the best. She was a hard woman. Well, I don't think she knew how to love. If we're to be honest, I really don't. And I was born with I was born with a vision impairment, which has gotten better with age, which is weird, but it's true. So, needless to say, I'm trying to think here, sorry. She would be neglectful. She would also leave me in my bedroom with toys on one side with a baby gate between us, between me and my toys. She, at one point, when I don't know if I was an infant or a toddler, but she threw me down the stairs. And I don't remember why. There's also the fact that she would not let anybody hold me. Not even my dad was allowed to hold me. The baby talk, I can understand that one, I can forgive, but nobody was allowed to hold me at all. She wouldn't even hold me. Gives you an idea there. So that happened. Then when I was 2.5, my dad moved out. And I was in preschool at this point because apparently Utah required it because of the vision impairment. I don't know. I don't understand the whole thing there. But yeah. So I went to preschool when I was 2.5, carrying a diaper bag of all things, and not even talking yet. And of course, my family just thought, oh, that's normal. So, so my biological mother also kicked my dad out when I was about 2.5, 3, somewhere in there. And moved her boyfriend in, who would do unspeakable things to me and my sister. Things I don't want to talk about. Things that I can't talk about because YouTube would remove this video completely. So we don't talk about that. I can't go into details. Needless to say, I've been through every form of abuse. You can imagine this one was of a very sensitive style, or very sensitive type. I hope nobody's had to go through that. I was not potty trained when I started preschool, and I was just barely getting potty trained when he moved in. And I remember the bathroom door being locked, and I had to go really bad, and I peed in front of the bathroom door. He carried me down and took pliers to me. He would also do things with food and make me and my sister eat the food. That's as much as I can go into details about. I'm not going to give full disclosures of what foods or what he did. You can use your imagination if you want. Let's jump ahead another year to when I was 4. I ended up living with my dad. I went to school with a black eye. My preschool teacher was not happy. I kept going to school, and I've talked to her about this because she was in my life. She came back into my life 2 different times since, and she saved my life, actually, because she helped. My dad got temporary custody of me at that point, and while he had temporary custody of me, my biological mother decided to put me in foster care for Easter weekend. She didn't want to tolerate me. She didn't want to put up with me, so she put me in foster care. It took till Easter Sunday for my dad to get me out. I remember to this day running into his arms. I asked my mom if she was there with him or not. She says, I don't remember. So I know my grandma was for sure. But I thought Mama was too, but I don't know now. Either way, doesn't matter. I remember running into my dad's arms. When I was 5, he finally got full custody of me, and I believe I was 5 or 6. I can't remember for sure when he got full custody of my sister. I think I was 5 at that point. I think she was 3 when they finally got full custody, but I'm not. Like I say, I'm not totally sure. So, but needless to say, my preschool teacher called DCFS, which in Utah is Division of Child and Family Services. Most states call it CPS, Child Protective Services. And that was hard. And it's, looking back, it took an emotional toll on me to be torn away from my biological mother. But I also didn't know just how bad things really were. I didn't understand it. You know, when you're that young, you don't comprehend it all. You know it's not good. But when you go through that abuse, it's hard. And my dad wasn't always that great either. He'd make us do this thing that he called the dying cockroach, where we'd stick all 4s up in the air, legs and arms, and we'd sit there for hours. And my mom confirms this. I thought it might have been exaggerated because it felt like hours, but she says it was hours. So that gives you an idea of how bad it was, even with him at times. But he suffers with depression. He has his own issues, his own set of issues. And he has learning disabilities. I don't know what for sure, but I know he's got some. I know I have some. And he also went through abuse from a couple of, well, I know for sure a kindergarten or first grade teacher would lock him in a closet. And when my grandma found out, she was livid. Okay, one thing I'll point out with you guys. My grandma's one of the sweetest people I know. But you don't mess with her kids or her grandkids, because then she'll get pretty feisty. But anyway, I was 4 when my parents got together, and my mom helped my dad fight for us because he was ready to give up, and so that's why I'm bringing this up. They separated a couple times, I believe. I think it was at least twice they separated. And he was a great dad when they separated. He was very devoted to me and my sister. But, you know, he also knew we needed a mom. So they got back together twice. 3 times. No, yeah, twice, because they separated twice. And the last time they got together, she was already in Grand Forks at the time, and he wanted her to move back. And she says, no, you're moving out here. This is her telling me this. So we move out there the day after my birthday. I got baptized LDS, and I have a very, 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 very long history of Mormonism in my family. Because I've had ancestors who helped found the LDS Church. In fact, I had one that died in Joseph Smith's arms in his farmhouse. Then there was the fact, too, that I'm related to William Brewster of the Mayflower, who is considered to be America's first pastor. So I've got a long history with religion in my family, just to give you guys an idea. And I do have documented proof that I am related to William Brewster, through his oldest son, I believe, which was the only one that came over on the Mayflower, as I recall. I'd have to look at the genealogy now. I don't remember for sure. But that aside, So we pack up the next day after my birthday, after my baptism, to the LDS church, and we moved to Grand Forks. But we had to stop and sleep in a McDonald's in Nebraska because we hit a blizzard. The 90s, weather in the 90s was different than it is today. Seems like weather today is a lot more dry than it should be. Sometimes I miss the 90s, let me tell you. I wouldn't go back to being a kid, unless I go back with everything I know now. But I do miss the weather. We actually had 4 seasons back then. Seems like Utah now only has 2, if we're lucky. Sometimes it's 1. We have hot and cold, and sometimes it's hot even during the cold season. So it's weird. But anyway. Anyway, while we were on our way, so for my birthday, my grandparents gave me a soundtrack to Labyrinth. And by the way, speaking of Labyrinth, this was the moment I knew I was attracted to men, because David Bowie was my very, 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 very first crush. Playing in Labyrinth. His voice, I loved him. I don't know what it was about him for sure, but I loved David Bowie. Speaking of Bowie, I struggled the first week after his death. I struggled big time because of the fact that Bowie was my first crush. My very first crush. So, anyway, we move. By the time we get to Grand Forks, that tape is ruined. I wore it out. That's how many times I played it on that trip. Oh, it was bad. It was fun though. I enjoyed it. My dad and my sister, I don't know, but I did. So we get back there and things are great. Things aren't too bad. My dad's not happy, but it's not as bad as it was when we were in Salt Lake. So then 97 comes around. Guess what we're doing? We're packing up to come to Utah, but this time it's as a family. My dad had a 78 Cutlass Supreme, and we took that because my mom's Mazda was a piece of junk. It would not start when it was cold. And actually, the winter in 97 was abnormally warm up until about February or March. I don't remember. I'd have to look it up again. But we had a flood. The dike broke and Grand Forks flooded. And we actually hit a couple records in a sense. First, we broke the record for the highest flood. And second, we were to be the largest mass evacuation since the Civil War. Now, my mama, and us kids being each only a year apart from each other, so I'm the oldest, then my brother, then my sister, then my youngest brother. So she says, I'm not staying in an Air Force base with 4 rowdy kids. There's no way in hell. So they pack up the Cutlass and we come back to Utah. And us 4 rowdy kids and my parents live in my grandparents' fifth wheel because my grandparents are renting the basement to somebody else at the time that needed it. So that was okay. It was good. Us kids, I don't think realized just how bad it really was. I don't know. We had fun. We did go to school for a little bit here in Utah because we didn't finish out the school year out there. So we did have to finish that out here. Though we were a bunch of refugees. We had a bishop. In fact, he's like a father to me. He's been in my life almost my whole life. And I grew up with some of his kids. So they are my siblings. And my grandma says he could have gotten in a lot of trouble for the help he gave us. And he gave us a lot of help. Plus, we had the Red Cross and FEMA. So we got the Red Cross and FEMA when we got back. And we had help from the LDS Church when we were here. That gives you an idea how great it was. And for the longest time, I did not realize just how bad a dual shampoo and conditioner was for your hair. And I swore by that stuff. Now I look back and I think, I was an idiot. But, I didn't know things. I mean, I was oblivious to a lot. I knew I enjoyed playing with my sister's Barbies. I knew all this other stuff. And when she stopped letting me play with her Barbies, by the way, I ripped all the heads off of them, put a needle with some thread through them all, and strung them up. And she, I got in a lot of trouble from my mama, first off, because, yeah. And second off, my sister was mad at me too. So that gives you an idea there. But we are at 1997. So let's go to 98. Well, actually, let's stay in 97. We moved back. We ended up getting the FEMA help. Thank you to the President, Bill Clinton. Amazing man. My mom won't even speak ill of him because of the fact that he helped us with FEMA. He actually came to Grand Forks, which a president is not required to do. And he assessed the situation, and he was emotional. So even my mama won't say anything bad about Bill Clinton as much as she's against the political party that he's a part of. But that's okay. So that is being said now. So we moved back there. The apartment's trashed. It stunk. We also had a dog, and that didn't help. My mom says she regrets how we left the apartment when we moved. But that's okay. It is what it is, right? Next, let's fast forward to a little bit after that. We look at a house in Black Duck. It's a trailer house, and we end up buying it. Lovely older couple. They were sweet. And we did that. In fact, we moved in the day Princess Diana died. And we were finally pretty much fully moved in the day her funeral happened. So that was interesting. And I think that's about where I'm going to leave this because we're about to 1998 now, close to. So let's just say this much. Christmas 97 was not easy. My mom found a letter that my dad wrote to an old girlfriend because my aunt sent this letter that she wrote to my dad. And my aunt says that my dad had every right. Well, maybe so, but she also broke up a family. And we were actually a happy family at that time. We were actually doing well. So it was nice, but stuff happens. So we had a Christmas that was a little weird, but it is what it is. So that's where I'm going to leave it. We'll start the next video the next long video I do will be will be January 98, and we'll finish through for another 10 years. Might actually be able to finish all the way through. I don't know, but we'll do 10 years at least. Take care. God bless.